Welcome to MR ENG. Today, we are going to explore something deeper than words, the discovery of yourself. Through a simple idea called the empty room theory, you'll learn how silence can teach you more than noise ever could. An empty room looks quiet and lifeless. But when you step inside, you begin to hear something powerful. Your own thoughts. In that stillness, you don't find loneliness. You find reflection. You begin to understand who you really are when the world stops talking. So, stay with me till the end of this video, because today's lesson is not about grammar or vocabulary. It's about you. And once you learn to listen to yourself, you'll learn to understand every word, every silence, and every part of life more deeply. Chapter 1. The Beginning of Silence. When you walk into an empty room, the first thing you notice is silence. There is no sound, no laughter, no voices. Only you, standing still. At first, it feels strange. You look around, waiting for something to happen. But nothing does. And that's when you realize the world outside is always loud, but the real discoveries begin in quiet places. In that empty room, your mind starts to speak. You hear your own thoughts clearly, the ones you usually ignore. You remember the things you said, the things you didn't say, the things you wish you had done better. For the first time, you meet yourself, not the person you show others, but the real one inside. And it's not scary. It's peaceful. I remember the first time I truly sat in silence. No phone, no music, no messages. Just me, sitting on the floor of an empty room. At first, I felt uncomfortable. My thoughts ran wild. Every small sound, the ticking clock, the soft wind outside, felt louder than ever before. But after a few minutes, something changed. The noise inside my mind began to fade. It was as if the silence started cleaning my thoughts one by one. All my worries began to lose their power. The mistakes I made didn't look so big anymore. I started to breathe slower, and for the first time I realized how noisy my mind had been for so long. That silence didn't make me feel alone. It made me feel light. You see, we live in a world that fears emptiness. We always fill our time with something, scrolling, talking, watching, rushing. We try to escape our thoughts by keeping ourselves busy. But the empty room theory tells us that silence is not empty at all. It's full of answers, but you'll never hear them if you keep running from stillness. When you sit quietly, the first few minutes may feel heavy. Old memories might come back. Regrets might whisper. But if you stay a little longer, the silence starts to change its shape. It becomes your teacher. It begins to show you patterns, how you think, how you react, how you feel. And slowly, that room of silence becomes a classroom for self-understanding. Silence teaches patience. It tells you that not every question needs an immediate answer. It reminds you that strength isn't about always speaking. It's about knowing when to listen. When you learn to be calm, you also learn to be wise. The world's noise can make you react, but silence teaches you to respond with thought. Sometimes I imagine silence as a soft friend, invisible but always there. It doesn't judge me. It doesn't rush me. It waits patiently until I'm ready to listen. And when I do, it gives me the courage to see myself clearly, both my light and my darkness. That's the magic of stillness. It makes you honest with yourself. For English learners, this idea is more powerful than it seems, because learning a language is not just about speaking more. It's also about listening more deeply. When you sit quietly and truly listen, not just to people but to yourself. You start understanding rhythm, tone, and feeling. You begin to hear how English carries emotion. Silence helps you notice the pauses, the flow, the heartbeat behind every word. The empty room. Theory isn't only about mental peace, it's about awareness. When your mind is calm, your memory improves. Your focus grows sharper. You start noticing words and ideas that you missed before. That's why calmness and language are connected. A silent mind can learn faster than a noisy one. Imagine you're standing in that empty room right now. No distractions, no stress, no noise. You take a deep breath. You hear your heartbeat. You feel your thoughts slowing down. And then, out of that silence, new thoughts begin to rise. Calm, clear, and kind. You realize that maybe silence is not about losing sound. It's about gaining clarity. It's the place where creativity wakes up. It's where ideas are born, where dreams whisper softly, where healing begins. And once you experience that peace, you start to crave it. Not the chaos of the world, but the stillness of your own heart. Many people think growth happens in action, in doing, moving, achieving. But real growth often happens in stillness, in the quiet space where you meet yourself honestly. The empty room becomes a mirror, showing you the parts of your life you never stop to see. And in that reflection, you find direction. So, whenever life feels loud and confusing, remember this. You don't need to escape the world. You just need to step into your empty room for a while. Let the silence hold you. Let your thoughts slow down. Because the person you're searching for, the strength you're waiting to feel, has been sitting quietly inside you all along. And maybe that's the real lesson of the empty room. That silence isn't the absence of life. It's the beginning of it. Chapter 2. When Silence Speaks Back. There comes a moment when silence no longer feels empty. It begins to breathe. It begins to talk. In that stillness of the empty room, you start to hear something you never noticed before. Yourself. At first, it's uncomfortable. The quiet feels too loud. Your thoughts start to echo like footsteps in a hallway. You remember things you've been avoiding. Old dreams, broken promises, fears that hide under your daily routine. It's strange how silence can pull everything out of you. But this is where transformation begins. You sit in that stillness, and suddenly, you start to realize how fast life has been running. Every day filled with noise, notifications, deadlines, people's opinions. But here, in this quiet, there's no audience, no judgment, no race. Just you, the real you. You notice how your mind wanders. Sometimes it goes to memories that make you smile. Other times it dives into regrets. But instead of running from them, you begin to listen. You start to see that every thought, even the painful ones, is part of who you are. The silence doesn't punish you. It reveals you. It's like meeting an old friend you've ignored for years. That friend is your inner voice, calm, honest, and wise. You realize it's been waiting, patiently, for this moment to speak again. Then something shifts. You stop fighting the silence. You start embracing it. You understand that peace isn't found in the noise of the world, but in the calm corners of your own mind. Every great idea, every life-changing decision, every deep realization begins in silence. The world outside moves too fast, but growth happens slowly, quietly, when no one is watching. You begin to see patterns, the way you react, the way you think, the way you love. You start to ask questions that you've never asked before. Am I living my truth? Do I really love what I do every day? Or am I just filling the noise so I don't face myself? And then it happens. That one honest answer that changes everything. Maybe it's small. Maybe it's just a whisper. But that whisper becomes the beginning of clarity. The empty room isn't so empty anymore. It's filled with the light of realization. You finally see that silence isn't your enemy. It's your mirror. It reflects your pain, your power, your purpose. It shows you how far you've come and how much you've ignored your own heart. But it also gives you a gift, the chance to start again, stronger, clearer, and more real. You take a deep breath. The air feels different now. You're not afraid of the quiet anymore. You're learning to listen to it, to use it. You realize that when the world goes silent, your soul speaks the loudest. And those who dare to listen, they begin to transform. So you stay there for a while longer. You let the quiet wash over you like soft rain. And in that gentle stillness you begin to build something new inside yourself. A foundation of peace, strength, and purpose. When you finally stand up and look around, the room hasn't changed, but you have. The walls are the same. The air is still, but your heart is lighter. Your mind is clear. You step toward the window, and for the first time, the light feels alive. It touches your face like a reminder. Silence was never emptiness. It was guidance. And from that day on, you carry a secret. You know that even when the world turns noisy again, you can always return to that room within yourself. That sacred space where silence speaks truth. Because now you understand. Silence doesn't isolate you from the world. It reconnects you to it. It turns confusion into clarity. It turns restlessness into focus. It turns an empty room into a powerful mirror of who you truly are. And this realization, my friend, is the beginning of every rebirth. Chapter 3. The Mirror. Within, when you spend enough time in silence, something magical begins to happen. You stop looking around for answers and start looking within. It's strange, isn't it? We spend so much time trying to fix the outside world, our looks, our habits, our surroundings, even our relationships. But the real mirror, the one that tells us who we truly are, lives inside us. At first, it's hard to look into that mirror. It doesn't just show your smile. It shows your scars. It reflects your dreams, but also your doubts. It shows the versions of you that you've hidden behind laughter or work. But once you face it, that mirror becomes your best teacher. You realize that every emotion you've ever felt, anger, joy, fear, hope, is a language your soul uses to speak to you. Most people ignore that language because they're too busy running. But in the stillness of your empty room, you finally listen. And as you listen, you begin to see patterns. You notice that many of your fears are just memories wearing new masks. You see that your insecurities were never about others. They were about how you saw yourself. That mirror doesn't lie. It tells you what you need to heal, not what you want to hear. One evening, as the sun fades and the shadows grow long, you sit quietly again. The room feels softer now. Not cold, not lonely, just peaceful. You close your eyes, and in that silence, you see your reflection, not on the wall, but inside your thoughts. You see a child version of yourself, innocent, curious, brave. The one who believed anything was possible. Somewhere along the way, you lost that child in the noise of growing up. But now, in this quiet, you find them again. You smile, because you know. This is the part of you that never gave up. You start to talk to yourself differently. The voice that once criticized now begins to comfort. The thoughts that once hurt you begin to guide you. You understand that self-discovery isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. You learn to forgive yourself, not because you were weak, but because you were human. You learn to thank yourself for surviving the days you thought you couldn't. You learn to trust yourself, because now you know your own voice. In that moment, you realize something powerful. The mirror within doesn't just reflect your past. It reflects your potential. It shows you what's possible when you stop running from your thoughts and start walking with them. It teaches you that peace isn't a destination. It's a direction. And every time you face that inner mirror, you take one step closer to your truest self. The more you look within, the less you need validation from others. The more you listen to your soul, the less you crave approval. You stop chasing things that sparkle on the outside and start seeking things that shine on the inside. And slowly, your reflection changes. Not because you've become someone else, but because you finally accepted the person staring back at you. That is the beginning of real confidence. Confidence doesn't come from praise or success. It comes from self-clarity, from knowing that even when you fall, you can rise again. The empty room that once scared you now feels like home. It's no longer a place of loneliness. It's a space of growth. You start to understand that every quiet evening spent with yourself is a step toward inner freedom. You begin to love the silence. You begin to crave it. Because now it's not silence anymore. It's your soul's classroom. And in that classroom, every mistake becomes a lesson. Every failure becomes a teacher. Every reflection becomes a reminder that you are not broken. You are becoming. By the time you open your eyes again, the night has deepened. The air feels cool and the stars peek through the window. You realize that those stars are just like you, silent, steady, glowing in the dark. You whispered to yourself, "I am enough." And for the first time, you believe it. That's the magic of the mirror within. It doesn't change the world around you, but it changes the way you see it. It makes you realize that peace was never about finding a perfect life. It was about finding the strength to live honestly in an imperfect one. So you close your eyes again, not to escape, but to return, to the reflection that knows your pain, your purpose, and your potential, because once you see yourself clearly, no darkness can blind you again. Chapter 4. Becoming the Light. When you truly know yourself, something begins to awaken inside you. A quiet strength, a calm energy, a light that doesn't fade when life gets hard. You start to realize that the purpose of the empty room was never to trap you in silence. It was to prepare you to shine when you step outside again. You walk out of that room differently. Your steps feel lighter, but your heart feels stronger. The noise of the world is still there. People rushing, phones ringing, streets buzzing. But this time, it doesn't shake you. Because now, you found your balance within. The light you discovered inside yourself doesn't depend on others. It's not built on praise or success or attention. It's built on truth, your truth. And once you have it, you begin to see everything differently. You notice people still lost in their noise, still trying to fill their emptiness with things that never last. Money, followers, distractions. But you don't judge them. You understand them. You've been there too. You know what it feels like to search for peace in all the wrong places. So instead of preaching, you start to live differently. Your calm becomes your message. Your patience becomes your language. And slowly, your presence begins to change the spaces you enter. That's what it means to become the light. You don't force it. You live it. You don't need to speak loudly. Your peace speaks for you. People begin to notice. They may not understand why, but they feel something when they're around you. A quiet comfort, a sense of ease. That's the power of a soul that has made peace with itself. You realize that true power isn't about control. It's about influence. It's about the ability to make others feel safe, inspired, and seen. And this power comes from one thing: understanding your own darkness. You've faced your fears. You've listened to your silence. You've looked into your mirror. And now that understanding becomes your light. Sometimes life will still test you. Storms will come. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. But your inner calm will not break. It will bend and then rise again, stronger than before. Because now you don't run from the dark. You walk through it, carrying your own light. You begin to help others see theirs too, not by teaching them what to think, but by reminding them that the answers they seek are already inside them, waiting, just like yours were, in their own empty rooms. You start to understand a deeper truth. Life isn't about filling every silence. It's about learning from it. It's not about avoiding pain. It's about growing through it. And it's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming real. That's when you see the beauty in everything. In small moments, in mistakes, in people's stories. You realize that every person you meet is fighting their own invisible battle. And maybe, just by being kind, just by listening, you can help them find their peace too. The light you've built inside yourself starts to reflect around you. In your words, your choices, your energy, you no longer chase the world. You attract what's meant for you. And that's the moment when you truly feel free. You stand near the window again. The same one from your first night in the empty room. The air feels familiar, but your heart doesn't. You've changed. You've grown. You've become your own home. You whisper softly, "I'm not afraid of silence anymore." And this time, silence doesn't answer back. It simply smiles. Because now, you understand the secret that few ever learn. The empty room was never a place. It was a journey. The journey back to yourself. And when you return from it, you don't come back empty-handed. You bring wisdom. You bring clarity. You bring light. And that light, dear friend, isn't just for you. It's for everyone who's still afraid to enter their own quiet room. Everyone who's searching for meaning in a noisy world. So you step outside, look up at the sky, and realize the same stars that once looked distant now feel close. Because you carry their light within you. You've become part of something bigger, brighter, and real. You smile, not because life is perfect, but because you finally are at peace with it, with yourself. That's the ending of the empty room theory, and the beginning of your real story.